We're live.
Alright, so yeah, big show today, y'all. Big show.
Peace and blessings, y'all. Moving target, the only move.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. Like I said, we got a big show today. Shoot, man, I don't even know. This is the type of episode where it's like I can't even come with full preparation of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I can't say, okay, then we're gonna talk about this, then we're gonna talk about that. Because this is so much of a big, massive topic,
right?
That to put it in 45 minutes, it's almost impossible. To put it in an hour, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
And there's so many levels.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about freedom of speech, we can't just talk about today we're going to talk about a lot of censorship and things of that nature. But we got to also talk about net neutrality. You know what I'm saying? And the end of it. You know what I mean? That's also affecting our freedom of speech, right? That's affecting how we browse, how we research and the information we can get. You know what I mean? That's controlling our information.
Or can't get.
Or can't get. You know what I'm saying? And so I would love to talk about end of net neutrality, which a lot of people still aren't. You know what I mean? But we can't really just go into that because that's an hour right there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where to start with this? It just came down to, even after we had the discussion, I just felt like, you know what? I'm just gonna approach this as a community member, not as no radio host or nothing like that, trying to figure this shit out. That's it. I'm trying to figure this shit out because I ask questions and I get ridiculed. I make my opinions, I get ridiculed, or I lose viewership, or I get blocked from the social media itself. Do you know I can't even promote ads for this show?
Wait, what?
I can't promote no ads.
Why?
Every message I get, it's because they're saying it's political. Like last week's topic with Nova Islam, I can't promote that. Political. That was about black men's health.
You can't promote it.
I can't promote it.
Black men.
I can't boost.
Because stating black men is already politicized. Because remember that you got black identity terrorists. You understand? So that's already pushing the identity politics.
Well, see, that's how we're gonna have to figure this thing out, though, and not even figure it out. That's why we need to take it to another level, because anything that's pushed of another race or anything like that, it don't get blocked. You know what I mean? If you was to say white men, this, that, and the third, and they you know, some of them are the biggest terrorist groups there are.
But shit, nowadays though, listen, we in a situation right now though.
Good morning, Angela. Good morning.
That even white men know we in a situation right now that even white men is being censored and blocked for they goddamn ideas, and they not even.
That's true.
Hard body, like you can't really put a hard body racist finger on them. But the reason that they getting blocked is because their language is outside of what mainstream language is, period. You know what I'm saying? So it's a box that's being set up to me. I'm going to tell you, this is what it look like to me. It's a box being set up where men who are alpha male heterosexuals will have no speech, inside of, you know what I'm saying? They're not allowed to have their ideology identified as something positive. You know what I'm saying?
What's the main thing that tells you that? What's the main thing that you?
Main thing, bro. I don't know how much you actually, view a lot of stuff that goes on like Twitter and stuff like that. But for me, the main thing is social media. Social media shows that it definitely for white men who are alpha male conservatives. You know what I mean? They're always on the chopping block. You will easily get unverified on Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Easily get blocked, shamed, and all this other stuff. Let's take it back. Let's take it back downtown, right here in New Haven. When Moving Target was just popping off. You know what I'm saying? And they get that riot downtown. The Proud Boys. At the time, everybody said it was the Nazis. You know what I'm saying? And we were downtown ready to speak with the Nazis because we're not afraid of debating ideologies. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't Nazis. They were Proud Boys. But before even all that, the Nazis weren't even here yet. And I saw a line of people with masks on, padding, like baseball, like the catcher's mask. And they were drilling. They were drilling like they were soldiers, like
Antifa.
Yeah, and we found out it was Antifa.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, in my mind, I'm sitting here like, yo, why they going so hard when, first of all, the people aren't even down here yet. Second of all, even when they do come down here, you know what I mean? Why are we bringing violence to speech? You know what I'm saying? Why are we bringing violence to what we would consider hate speech? You know what I'm saying? Even if it is that, it just didn't make sense to me. But then to find out that they were Proud Boys, and even after they found out they were Proud Boys, Antifa threw the paint, caused this riot, Barbara Fair gets arrested, and then what do we see minutes later? Them dancing downtown talking about singing Justin Timberlake Can't Fight the Feeling. It's like, so what are we doing here? What? It's like, it was almost like they gathered around because, somebody got a difference of opinion. Somebody got something that we don't agree with. So we're going to combat it with the equal violence. Like, even when Trump said there was something on both sides with Charlottesville, I didn't take that as him, because I knew what Antifa was. And I knew that I saw white supremacists and I saw Antifa. And on both sides. There's no question there was. But it was fun. White supremacists. You know what I'm saying? Mainstream media.
Yeah.
And like, that's when I say I feel like those are big things that I feel like show that when it comes to any type of view outside of leftist progressive views, you getting blackballed.
The gentleman make up the who one of the founders of Twitter was doing a podcast, and he stated straight up that, listen, we have to start like straight screening out ideas that don't go along with ideas that we like, because they were speaking on groupthink, and his problem with groupthink was that there was too much conservative groupthink, so they wanted to weed out conservatives, and he says that we do this on purpose in order for us to have another group think, but this group think of only liberal. It's only a liberal group think, and there's no recourse for this type of thing. There's no recourse when you have a private entity. You know what I mean? Putting out there that they're giving you a platform for free speech, but it's still a private entity. Then they automatically have a right to start snatching your stuff down. And now this is where we're going to start getting into lawsuits on what exactly is freedom of speech, and does a platform that is out only to give out speech, is a platform like that allowed to take away one of your rights? Is a private corporation able to offer everybody a platform to speak except for you? Is that legal for them to be able to do that? And that's where we're starting to get into those two different type of court cases coming up, and you'll see them readily right now, especially after that Alex Jones dude got knocked off of YouTube. Once he got knocked off of YouTube, knocked off of Twitter, and the other white boy Gavin McInnes, they all suing right now. So we're gonna see what's going to be the end result of PC culture with this side of social media. We're going to see what the result of that's going to be.
I think a lot of this also doesn't matter, like, in our minds, I'm talking about black people as a whole, because a lot of this is happening towards white conservatives. And so what do we have to worry about? Because we're the ones that are being, in a sense, supported and protected in regards to, like, on Twitter, social media, and stuff like that. So it's like, why do you think we as black people need to be concerned about the way identity politics and PC culture and social media work?
Now, I would say if you just read the freedom, read the
First Amendment.
When
we go live, we're gonna go over that. Yep.
Yeah. So like going through that, like hitting that, that's what's going to really open the people up to the fact that it's hypocritical to be allowed. That's my problem. I don't want to be allowed a voice that somebody else not allowed, man. I don't like to play like that. I want to play fair. If I got you, I'm going to get you. I don't mind cheating you to beat you, but that's not the type of goddamn game I want to set up. I want to set it up fair. So if I got a right to call you a cracker, you got a right to say nigga. You got a right to that. I'm not going. knock you for saying that. Now, it's upon how I take that on what type of consequences it is. For me calling you a cracker or for you calling me a nigga, it's always consequences to your words, but you got to take that upon yourself.
So aren't the
But you can say that.
So wouldn't the consequences be, okay, you're saying nigga, so we're gonna come onto the university and make sure that you don't speak? Wouldn't that be the consequences, or is that violating freedom of speech?
No, that's a violation of my freedom of speech. I got a right to say that, but you got a right to protest.
Right, and
Yeah,
if the protest is
You know what I'm saying?
But
You
the
don't got a
reason-
right to
but-
stop
but-
me, but you got a right to say, I don't like your speech. You got a
Yeah.
right to say that.
Yeah, but the reason why them words, especially like the word nigga, the reason why that word is saying is, and I feel like it's a good thing with them saying, yo, you can't use that word because of what the suffering, the pain, the bloodshed behind that word. You know what I'm saying? So
You're not.
there are certain words that will potentially cause violence.
Yeah, true indeed.
And that's what we gotta try to stay away from. So
Not-
certain things gotta be ousted.
No, but listen, you can't. But how can you oust a word?
Do
See,
me a
that's
favor.
your-
Can you move over a little this way? Ren, move over this way, and Spence, move over a little that way.
But my thing is, it's a word though. Like I said, I want to be able to.
Well, if we could get him in, we could probably get him in one shot. I'm looking at the shot right now.
Yeah, they are the one shot.
Okay, all right. So that's pretty much how it had to go.
All right.
My apologies, brother Bourne. Just wanted to make sure.
So now what you doing with my phone?
Technically, we don't really
Don't
need.
need it.
Brother Bourne, you can move over just a little bit and to make sure you're in the shot. All right.
You know, I'm in the.
Alright, cool.
Here I go.
Yeah, we good. We good. My apologies, brother Bourne. I just wanted to make sure y'all in there. We are gonna go live in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to but that's what I'm saying is that if the protest is a protest where it's like we're gonna get it where the university has to now excuse this speaker because of the speech that they bring, that's the consequence.
That's what. See, now that's where the university has to stand on Constitution. See, that's the problem. The university bend to the social justice warrior. That's the problem. You don't bend to people making goddamn outrageous demands, man. You don't bend to that. You don't bend to ideological terrorism. You don't bend to that. I'm not going to bend to you ideologically trying to terrorize me. Tell me that we're not allowed to think these things. You can't allow, and that's where the problem comes. Is that the college campuses are so liberal. The college campuses are so weak.
I mean, but is it weak or are we okay? So I would agree that it's weak in in a lot of ways, but you're in a controlled environment now. That's supposed to be an institution for learning.
Exactly.
So we know that by using that word nigga, some dudes, or it could even be a female, will black out and cause destruction, man.
That's because they're
funny
emotionally
story.
and they
But-
emotionally unstable.
I actually have
but-
a funny story.
But we're not dealing with why. We got to deal with the fact of the matter is, and I agree with that.
But that's not the law. The law don't have
I want to hear
reference
for
emotion.
what he because he's on the college campus,
Yeah.
so I want to see like what. Yeah,
Last year around November, a professor actually said an N-word in class. I guess they allowed like the students to play like one song.
and what? He said it
Yeah.
because of a song.
Yeah. So a close friend of mine at the time being, he was like, "You can't say that word." He said, "Why not? I have a black daughter." Completely wrong. Yeah. So then they make a big fuss about it and they hold a school meeting. We thought like we made some progression. The teacher was like an adjunct professor. So like he just stopped teaching at the school, but his job was never terminated. So, yeah.
Because he got freedom of speech.
Should it have been terminated?
Like he said, it's freedom of speech. I mean, he really didn't
I don't know if his job
should.
I don't know if his job should have been terminated, man. But we cannot have people walking around using certain things that are bringing real harm to people, using certain words that have destroyed people and lives have been taken with that word, man.
Yeah, but it's with that word because personally you're biased to it.
Yeah.
There are other words that you might feel like for example, with the pronouns. Somebody might feel like, yo, if you don't call me this, I I went through some bloodshed to be called the pronoun that I want to be called.
So here's the difference, though. I don't think it's right to force people to call somebody something or force me to try to say something. But I do think it's right to say, yo, let's take a look at this. What we're not. Let's not do that.
All right, we're gonna go live. Make sure y'all speaking to the mic. We're gonna go live.
For sure.
Why you doing all this time saying it? That shit ain't gonna be worth that. Damn, we done talked all the points out.
Charge.
94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city and home of the Juan Castillo Morning Show. This is Moving Target Radio. What's going on? Good morning, New Haven family. I am your host, Jay Kemp. And of course, with me is my brother, Remedy Sharif. What's good, brother?
Hey, feeling blessed, feeling blessed.
You in a good mood, man.
It's Super Saturday, brother.
Super Saturday.
Super Saturday.
What's that?
Well, we woke up this morning. We was blessed by the Most High. Whoever, think that we woke up. We have an opportunity to make our day better. Go on to progressive things.
Okay, I can take that.
Super Saturday.
You're right, Super Saturday. That's how we gonna do it. Moving Target, the only move, right?
The only move.
So we got a really big show today. And it's big because there's a lot to talk about in this topic. And I have to be honest, it's not a conversation that I am very versed in, even though I do media, right? And one of the challenges about doing media, kind of really, even if you're just at home online, is being mindful of who you might offend. Now, some don't care, and that's cool. That's your opinion. That's your way. But for others, like myself, I have to care, because I know that the people who support Moving Target are not all the same. They don't all have the same views and opinions. They don't all have the same walks of life. So I do my best to be mindful of that. But I would be lying if I said that I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells in the day that we live in. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't feel like society was more sensitive than ever before. And even that opinion about society being sensitive will be met with judgment and criticism. If I ask the question, it is immediately under scrutiny. And either I lose viewership or the social media platform itself blocks me and I'm kicked off. Now, if I'm a business entrepreneur that thrives off of a social media platform, that could be very detrimental, especially if it's ridiculing or somehow tearing down my whole character. Nothing I would say is hate, nor is it even disrespectful, but yet the backlash is heavy. And we see this in the mainstream as well. We see it with Colin Kaepernick. We see it with conservative speakers and comedians who are told they can't perform or speak at a university. And listen, I'm all about awareness and learning bias and microaggressions, right? But when do we draw the line? Is there a line? Is there a line between heightened awareness and heightened sensitivity? And what does that say about our freedom of speech, about our censorship? Is debating ideologies and opinions something of the past? So today, we're going to look at the future of our First Amendment right to freedom of speech. It's going to be a heavy topic, and it's probably going to be things and labels and terms that you might not have heard of. And all I'm asking is that you approach this with an open mind to explore this. And as we end this conversation, keep it going, because we need to be sure that we still hold that freedom of speech. All right, and joining us to really talk about this is a young man and intern for Moving Target, Spencer, who's a student at Southern, right?
Yes, sir.
Peace.
What's
Spence.
going on, brother?
What's going on?
And then we also have community activist, host of Feet on the Ground Radio, black nationalist, one of the most outgoing, outspoken brothers, Brother Bourne. What's up?
Peace and power. What's going
Peace,
on,
bro.
family?
Thank you for joining us, man. I really appreciate this.
You know,
Peace and power. I
peace
love
and power.
that.
Yeah,
You
love
know,
some power.
like-
So let's start with the First Amendment. All right, let's just really start with that, because I don't know if a lot of people are aware of exactly what the First Amendment says, right? So here's the First Amendment: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government. All right, so that is itself, that embodies everything, right, Brother Bourne? That's everything of our freedom of speech.
Yeah, that's the whole amendment right there.
That's the whole amendment. So what else does that cover?
Um,
Like in detail, because even somebody hearing that could be like, all right, I still don't know exactly what that's saying.
All right, basically, what the First Amendment does is it gives you freedom of ideas, because in any type of marketplace where you want growth, you have to have contradicting ideas in order for you to be able to grow. So that's what the freedom of speech does. It initially gives you that voice, because there's one thing to think something and there's another thing to speak it. If you're not allowed to speak things out, then you're not allowed to move things inside different arenas of life, because the spoken word is what moves things, not your thought.
Right.
You understand? And so that's the basic of it. Is just basically the First Amendment is basically just, especially dealing with speech, is just to be able to have people with alternate ideas be able to bounce them off each other, because that's the way that you get growth. You can't get growth with everybody having the same idea. You have to have an arena that it's okay for ideas that are not the norm or not like yours to be able to be espoused.
Do you feel like we are headed in a place, or are we in the space now where ideas can't be debated?
No, we're about 85%. We're about 85% away from freedom of speech. We're about 15.
That's not real facts. Just so y'all
No.
know.
Like,
Whoever's gonna go
this is
fact
my
check.
opinion. No, this is my opinion. This is my opinion. In my opinion, there is only about 15. There's a small, I'm gonna say there's a minute area of leeway that you have with freedom of speech right now. There's a very small, even to the point that I spoke a word on a comment on one of your pages before on Facebook. You wrote a post and I commented.
Yeah, I know the
And
word.
my comment
It was towards
tricky.
transgender.
No, but it wasn't even towards the transgender. It was, I was explaining how what I thought of about transgenders through a transgender's words. I use the word tranny because I had heard a transgender utilize that term tranny in describing themselves and their experience. And my comment was stricken not by a transgender, but by someone who said that they were straight. And now this is where we say that this
And
is
I
why I said,
believe, just so you know, because we're talking about heightened awareness versus heightened sensitivity and microaggressions. So just to be clear, from what I'm learning, this is why I like the heightened awareness part, is that because I know people who's, identify as that, transgender people or persons is supposed to be the politically correct term. I just want to make that clear, but go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I'm just saying that that's where we get to the oversensitivity. We oversensitive. If you're not even a part of that demographic, and then you come to condemn me for something that demographic utilizes, I'm like, where does this, where is the line at? How can you be sensitive about something that the person that it quote unquote might be offensive to is not offended? How can you be offended? It makes no sense to me no more. That's what I'm saying. This is where we at with PC culture, that anyone can be offended for anything, even if it's something that does not affect them.
Let me ask you this: if you learn from that, because there's a lot of reasons why somebody who might identify as a transgender person might not say something. Sometimes there might be a fear involved, right? And then somebody else might have to call you out on it, right? But when you do learn that, do you then apply it and say, okay, I'm not going to use this term, or do you still say, I'm going to use it anyway?
No, I use the term. No, I'm going to use tranny. I'm going to use the term.
But
because,
if you know that it's...
No, hold up, listen. It was sensitive to... I don't know if a transgender was sensitive to it, because as I stated, I only use the word because this is how a transgender that I watched on YouTube utilized it. He was describing himself as a tranny.
Right.
So now, if you are a transgender and you self-identify as a tranny, how is it a problem with a cisgender? How is it a problem with a cisgender? How can a cisgender have a problem with that?
It's probably because, there's some black men that don't mind being referred to by the N-word, right? But I would say, don't call me that.
Right.
I would say, don't call me that.
Absolutely.
And
not.
I want you to know that that's not what I want you to call me, and I want you to apply that now that you know, right? And so I think this is where I believe it gets real, it's a very thin line, because when we are aware of something, we have to figure out a way to apply it. Now, the sensitivity part is when I feel as though if I don't know and I happen to say something, as if right there and then, instead of speaking with me about it, instead of challenging my thought on it, I'm ridiculed. I might be terminated, meaning if it was at my job, I might be blocked on social media. And I'm like, but this is an opportunity to now have a discussion.
And that's exactly what happened. See, I was immediately, because I was given no understanding of why this term was offensive, I reiterated why I utilized the term, and the person who was feigning offense could not explain to me how this term was offensive to them. They just was like, they were just offended. They were just offended. And now from that, like you said, that bridge, that opened a space, right? If you feel offended and you say that, listen, you're using something offensive towards me, and I ask you, well, how is it offensive? That opens up that bridge for you to say, well, listen, this is how it's offensive, and then that gives me the opportunity to say, you know what? Let me think about, am I going to use it? But if you just tell me, I'm offended, don't use it, period, then that's not, we can't roll like that.
So is this because that we are being shaped by society and shaped by these different things, and we're just following these things without being critical thinkers?
Well, I think we got to break that down, the things in society, right?
Yes, please.
So like one of the terms that I learned, and again, for everybody listening, there's going to be a lot of heavy talk that happens. Some of it might be uncomfortable. But the fact is that we really do have to unpack a lot of what this is, and some of us might not. I know for me, I'm learning all of this now, right? I'm learning all this now, and I know there's a lot of people who aren't really aware. And this is to get you to think about that. So one of the terms that I'm starting to learn is identity politics. and how much identity politics plays a role, especially online, social media, in regards to, you know, who says what, who's criticized for what. So what exactly is identity politics? And I'll probably go with Spencer or Brother Bourne. I know y'all both kind of talked about it a little bit at different times. Whoever wants to take it.
He starts off, I can
Okay.
get it off.
No doubt. I was
ahead,
going to give it to
Brother
the youth, know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
I
was
like
gonna
to give the young people.
Yeah, I
a
was going to give
platform.
it to the youth, know what I mean?
But go ahead, Brother.
But now, identity politics is basically, you know, utilizing groupthink as a way to deal with all problems. You know what I'm saying, inside of life. You just deal with only groupthink as though, all right, since I'm black and like we were talking about Liam Neeson, as a whole, right? It said that Liam Neeson is racist. You know what I'm saying? That's what in generality, that's what's out there. Liam
Without
Neeson,
knowing the story.
yeah, without
yes,
knowing the story,
I would say yes,
they
he's a
say
racist.
Liam Neeson is racist. Now, identity politics would be that if black people in general said Liam Neeson was racist, and then I just went along with it, even though I might think something different, I don't think the story through. I just roll along with it. That's like the same thing is what does, you know, like if I'm LGBT, I only identify as LGBT, and everything that I deal with, I only filter through the LGBT filter. You know
Now,
what I'm saying?
I mean, because that's always been the case, kind of, right? I mean, you've always had different groups and identities, and people identify as certain things. So why does that affect our censorship, our First Amendment, or how does it? How does that play out?
Hold on, reshape that.
So
Reshape that.
how does identity politics affect our freedom of speech, our censorship, and all those things?
All right, this is how, to me, this is how it affects it, is because once I have groupthink, then we can effectively shut you down. This is what you were talking. This is what we were speaking about earlier. You know, you have the feminist sector. You have, you have all these different sectors. You have the Muslim sector. You have the Christian. You know, you have all these different people who identify as different things. Now, if I group together, I can shut you down. That's where the identity politics is bad, because they utilize it as a force to stifle ideas and ideologies that they don't agree with, regardless if it has nothing to do with good or bad,
Right.
positive or negative. It's just, it's not what I think.
So if it's somebody who is a white person with ideas about black people, and it might not even be negative, the fact that it's not a person from this group, from this identity, then we can actually voice ourselves and say, you are offending us, and now your image, your
Yeah, you
job,
racist
whatever.
because you even spoke on us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're not us, then you don't have a right to even speak on us. You know what I mean? That's how identity politics goes. It gives you no room for it leaves no room for ideological what-
Debates and conversations.
No, what is this thing? Inclusivity.
Yeah.
See, in order for you to have real ideological inclusivity, you have to later for who the people around you who's different is their mind different.
Right.
And that's the problem. We want everybody around us to look alike and think alike. I don't mind if we all look alike. I don't mind, but I know we need some different thinkers out
You
here.
need some
And
critical
Yeah,
thinkers.
we need
You need
different
critical
thinkers.
thinkers.
And that's the problem with identity politics. It leaves you no room for a different thought. It's once you identify as this group, all thoughts are the same.
Right.
And that's where we had a problem.
And they're taking conscious thought into the fact that they know a lot of us are just led like cattle. A lot of people are not critical thinkers. So them knowing that and seeing that, that's how they're able to form and create that.
So it's almost, it comes down to a lot of, even with media, we get a story, right? And depending on the identity politics of the story and how it's pushed to us, we might not necessarily question or look deeper or objectively at that story.
Or you might be criticized for not looking at the story in a certain way. This is what we were speaking about Juicy Smoley.
Jesse?
Yeah. Now Juicy Smoley allegedly.
Now, it is Jesse Smoley, right?
Listen, man. I'm like from what I'm getting.
I like Juicy.
From what I'm getting, and from what I'm getting from the community that Juicy is a part of, it is enunciated as juicy.
Now,
So,
now where, is that
that's
like
the homosexual
YouTube,
culture.
Is that
Yeah, I
YouTube
got-
video you saw? Because
Yeah,
we
I
have to
gotta
be-
listen. Yeah, because media. Media has had a lot of social media has had different friends and folks who know Jussie and run in the same circles as quote unquote Jussie. And so when speaking to the media, they explain to the media that because we are not part of the homosexual culture, that we could not. When we read Jussie's name, that it wasn't coming off to us as how it is actually pronounced, because we don't identify men in that type of mannerism.
So basically, you're saying that the name that you're calling them is basically something that you saw people that are
Homosexual,
connected with him
yeah, in the
saying, like,
homosexual
this
culture
is
saying that
what-
it's actually pronounced Juicy.
All right, well-
and so so anyway, Juicy, right? Juicy came out and Juicy had his story, and immediately on the story, a lot of black men, straight black men, immediately questioned the story. First day, we questioned the story, and we were automatically made. As though we were automatically targeted, as though we were the ones who attacked Jussie.
Yeah, I was criticized for that
Yeah,
because I
and-
was questioning the facts of the story. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That's the extremes of identity politics. Yeah, we black alike, but hold up, y'all ain't gay. So
Yeah, but personally, and I just, I didn't know. I was personally I was upset, and then I wanted to know exactly what happened.
No-
And when they started saying alleged about it, I was like, what do you mean alleged? Why is it alleged? You know what I mean? And then we had to go into all of that. I found out why they're saying alleged, but off the rip, I was just, I was like, nah, man, this is foul. This is dead wrong.
And that's and that's where they have us. They got us stuck in between a rock and a hard place, because no matter what side you on, you automatically look. All right, look, I agree. Wait a minute, man. That's identity politics, because they want you to identify with his blackness. They said he was lynched. Oh, wait a minute. You got it was MAGA hats on, and you make a look. Wait, it's racist.
Right.
We got to get at them white folks. They ain't getting at us.
Right,
Black
right.
people unite under that.
They're
Wait,
saying
the
it's
fact
two
that-
black men now that actually attacked him.
So it's two black men now.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Wow.
That was two Nigerians from the show.
I wonder, because I got really criticized from online, about questioning it. I got slammed, right? And I wonder if I'm gonna get an apology for that.
Right?
Yeah, probably not.
How do you come back from being blackballed or being ridiculed if somebody how do you really redeem yourself after now I'm not on a world stage level, obviously, but what about these athletes or celebrities that are, if they get ridiculed for an opinion that they might have shared, even if it was years ago, even if they grew from that, how do you now come back from that? It's almost like once it's on you, that's it.
Look at Monique. Look at what just happened with Monique and Steve Hartley.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Steve Hartley telling her she got to lose integrity. You can't have
You are saying
integrity.
it's Steve Hartley intentionally, right? Okay, all right. So
You basically have to pander.
So yes, you basically have to pander.
In order to get your fan base or audience back, you have to pander to the
Yup.
group. If that situation were to come up,
Right.
Because that's what he was trying to, and we know that because that's what Steve was trying to get Monique to kowtow to on the show. He was
Right,
trying to
right.
get her to pander to the group,
Right.
pander to these white people who you offended so much.
Yeah.
This is about the money, and Monique said, "No, it's about integrity." And see, that's where the line get drawn. When are we going to have integrity first? When
So-
is it going to be about that?
So we cover identity politics, which again wasn't something that I normally thought about. And then once I started to look at even you explaining identity politics, now a lot of things are starting to come into play
Absolutely.
about where identity politics are being are taking place, right? But then Spencer, we were talking, and you brought up social media and PC culture.
yeah.
What's up with that?
Well, I've been like an avid Twitter user for like over the past decade, and I just seen the app transform. One thing I would say a positive is that it's just informed me about my ignorance based on my privilege. So like the LGBT community, I might have not known their struggles, but from social media, I got a better understanding. I'm more tolerant. I don't use certain words. I eliminated actions and words from my vocabulary.
Same here, yeah.
However, I believe that it's created what I call a cancel culture. Basically, if you did anything in your past or you said anything that goes against the political correct agenda, we're going to cancel you. And I think it's counterproductive because
This is a real thing.
yeah,
cancel
it's a
culture.
real thing. I think it's counterproductive because it doesn't give people a chance to grow from their experience. Like, who you are 10 years ago is not who you are today. We all go through experience, so why judge somebody for actions they made in the past if that's not the context of their character in the present?
Yeah, and with the cancel culture, I mean, now that you say that, and I'm thinking about a Kevin Hart, I'm thinking about, I'm trying to think of more people. I mean, if I'm going to go on the conservative side, you know, Alex Jones, you know, Jordan Peterson, you know, on the conservative side. But even Colin Kaepernick on some ends was part of that cancel culture, right?
They even try to get MLK. They try to when stories started bursting out that he started. I mean, like it's been known for years, but people started bringing up the fact that he cheated on his wife, and now people want to make a big deal about that. Ever since MLK Day started coming up.
So now in the day that we live in, the cancel culture is actually very, very effective because we're doing so much of our speaking and communicating and sometimes making a living off of social media.
Yeah,
If you get canceled, that's it. You're done.
So not only that, I think one thing that is very critical is who is controlling these things of cancel culture. Because I think there are a lot of people that and I would like to ask that question, Jay, if we don't need to ask it now, maybe a little bit later in the show. But I just like to know who's creating this thing of where they're able to say this is what the norm is.
I
This
think
is
it
what it
depends.
is now.
It's the micro communities within the social media. So like you have
Okay.
the Black Twitter, the LGBT Twitter, like he said, the Muslim Twitter, whatever Twitter it may be. Usually it happens during the height of someone's career. Like let's say Kevin Hart was supposed to host the Oscars or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then they start pulling up tweets from 2009.
Mm-hmm.
So it's these people within the communities are just like, hey, let me go see what this person's really about, and they'll go and bring it up to light.
Do you guys feel it's fair or it's biased?
Oh, it's definitely biased.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's fair, and I think it is biased.
Okay.
But on the flip side, are we going to say the same thing though? As black people, are we going to give a pass? You know, like I'm not even gonna bring up Liam Neeson's situation only because Liam Neeson had a moment that he spoke of 30 years ago and was honest about a negative primal urge that he, you know, was
You go
entertaining.
with the Virginia governor.
The
Virginia
one that
governor,
took the
Northam.
picture.
Yeah, you go
See,
with Northam.
the issue I have with that, and maybe this is me, but the issue I have with that is why did you were 30 years old and this, you know, you were in politics and you did it as a joke. Liam Neeson, on the other hand, you were emotionally charged and wasn't even, you know, from what I understand, not in your right mind. Here, you thought it was a joke to dress up as a Klansman or in
But I'm just
blackface.
saying that when we talk about the cancel culture going back into people's lives, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
like you were saying, you know, you go back into people's lives so many years just because of whatever agenda is going on right now. This is the agenda that we're trying to lay out. You know what I mean? Even though in Northam's case, because he is a Democrat senator, he's really getting the soft glove treatment from mainstream media. Because I even heard,
I didn't even really hear about it.
you know, exactly on CNN. Hold on, man. What did Don Lemon say, man? I got a quote
So
from Don
while you
Lemon.
pull that up, I wanna still move into this of just being sure that we, and this is why I said heightened awareness versus heightened sensitivity. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't write everything off as sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that we are learning, it's because we're evolving as a society, as a community.
Mhm.
So we need to begin to go out of our way to learn them. Even when I learned about toxic masculinity, you know, I understood that there was a difference between toxic masculinity and masculinity being toxic, which in my opinion, it began to be, I felt as though masculinity was more spoken of in a toxic way, right?
Right.
This is why we did our shows on that
Right.
and wanted to talk about what healthy masculinity looks like.
Right.
But I also understood that I needed to be aware of what toxic masculinity was, how I was complicit to it, what is rape culture, how I was complicit to it.
Right.
Right? So, on that sense, we need that awareness.
Right.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know?
I want to know, since you learned about toxic masculinity, what is toxic femininity.
I'm not gonna go there.
No, we got to go there.
But we got an agenda, so we can't,
Yeah,
we
I'm
can't go there
sorry.
right
I'm
now.
sorry. Well,
Because that's a
listen.
whole other
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
And to be real with you, we've had the discussion before, and you know, for anybody who's listening who wanted to go right back at Born, let me just say that saying toxic femininity for many people is like saying black people are racist. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna say that is a defense. I'm not even gonna go into that topic. However,
I just wanted to read this real quick with Don Lemon.
and this is in regards to the
to the north from to the governor of Virginia.
okay.
This is what Don Lemon stating. Imitation. This is what mainstream media going. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Now look, man, he was just flattering us. You know what I mean? They got black people
So
got
he was
CNN
defending him?
Yes. CNN host saying, look, man, that was flattery because he a Democrat. See, this is what I'm saying. See, now they play politics also.
Are you
with
sure in the context of what Don Lemon was saying he was defending him?
Right.
I'm 100% sure. I want when you get all y'all gotta do is pull it up.
Yeah, all right.
CNN on it. And he was 100%
That's
defending
insane.
it.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
If that is the fact,
Yeah.
Right,
that is
100%
insane.
defending it. You know what I mean? This is their new line.
Right.
Is that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But if that was, if that's like the Strom Thurmond when you talk about the conservative though, is look, man, that joker racist. You better get him out of office,
Right.
hanging. Yo, there's no way
So another
they
example.
a Republican could live with no shit like that going. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Please, thank you, brother.
Excuse me, with no thing like that going on, there would
Yeah.
be, but with a Democrat right there, it's like, hold up, hands off. And now not only is it the Democrat, not only was it the governor, you got his, not the lieutenant governor, but the third in charge, his, God. I want to say the attorney general from the state, but the third in charge of Virginia also got the picture the same as the governor.
So
In
I
blackface
I
and
think
playing hoodies.
another example of how we read into a story and how Twitter kind of chooses or the PC culture and the identity politics is the Covington student. Is the Covington
Yeah,
students?
Covington.
You know, when that video first broke, everybody was up in arms. Everybody couldn't stand this kid who was looking at the guy, the Native American banging the drum, right? And then we got more footage, and then we realized what the context was of everything. But in the between time, before we got any real understanding of this story, Kathy Gifford, a comedian, was on Twitter. Other comedians, other people talking about doing
Talk
harm to
shows.
the young people, killing them. Some of them were calling them to be killed, right?
Said their school shoot, they need to get their school shot up.
Yeah, they were really going in.
Wow.
And then once the real story broke, there was nothing done to them. They weren't taken off Twitter. They weren't bashed. They weren't. What is that? Is that identity politics? Is that PC culture? How does that work on Twitter, where somebody can talk like that, right? But yet not be penalized. But then somebody else can say their maybe political views that might be anti-LGBTQ
You're
or
not part of the group.
Yeah, right.
It's group thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Twitter is run by liberalism. Liberalism is part of the foundation of Twitter.
But that's dangerous because a lot of politics are done on Twitter.
No, but that's what the brother was saying, that he can see it now
noticeable
over 10
difference.
years. He can noticeably see that ideas that are not, you will automatically use stricken. Listen, man, there's words that you cannot use.
Yeah.
It's over for you. You will have that banned. You can't say gay in any other way but happy on Twitter.
Right.
You will have, like, I got a 7-day ban for saying something that I could not deem. I couldn't figure out how it was harmful.
Even if it wasn't your intention to do harm against somebody.
Exactly. I couldn't even appeal it. I tried to appeal it. They would not even allow me to appeal it because I was just like, can you explain to me how
You're
what
not
I
part.
said
You're
was
not part.
offensive?
You're not part of the in crowd on Twitter.
Exactly. And no, that's exactly
You're not
right.
part of the in crowd.
That's exactly right, because what I was saying was something that was against liberalism. You can't say things that those microaggressive, those little micro groups.
That's all right. That's all right.
But those micro groups, you can't say things that the micro groups take offense to,
Right.
because the micro groups, they, as much as it might be a small group, they got a large voice. They got a large voice in that in media world.
In my opinion, it's like the underrepresented communities are more represented on these social platforms. So like if you're a black man like me, we get slander all the time. Whether it be by black women, it could be by gay men, it doesn't care. We're not really as protected as much as them, but let's say if I were to say something negative about gay people, my account gone within a matter of minutes.
But I could say something about a white man. But I could call the white man the devil
Yeah.
with no problem.
No
Right.
problem.
With-
Nothing done.
with nothing done. But if I say,
And you think that's wrong? Like something should be done.
no, I don't think something should be done, but nothing will be done.
Right.
But if I say, I still believe that the DSM was correct in naming homosexuality a mental disorder. Huh? You out of here, man. You out of here. Even though I'm not saying anything derogatory, I'm just giving my opinion,
Right.
stating my opinion, and basing it off of scientific evidence that once existed.
I think the,
Automatically, you wrong.
and I think that what ends up happening is, you know, people don't, first of all, going against my opinion, especially if my opinion is something that is connected to a long history, right? So if my opinion of black people is connected to a long history that I'm very aware of, that I'm very invested in, right? Anybody who goes against that and I'm offended, you know, I can feel as if that's going to foster other violent acts and other thinking that's going to make my people more at risk, which is now something that's going to make me feel like, yeah, you got to go, because what you're saying is it could cause that, right? But yet the thing that I respect about you, Brother Born, is I know you're invested in black. It's black first and always, right?
First, second, and third.
First, second, and third. But if somebody goes against it, I've seen you not even budge. I've seen you say, okay, let's talk.
Yeah.
You don't agree with this? All right, let's talk.
Because I'm already standing firm. I'm already standing firm in who I am. See, a lot of times people offended when they're already unsure. Take a weak heart to be offended like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not emotionally invested anyway in words, for one. You know what I mean? I've had enough violence in my life that conversations I would never, you know what I mean? I don't have no fear of conversations. And a lot of people got fear with debate because they got weak knowledge.
Right.
When you weak in your ideology already, then the only recourse you got is violence against somebody who got a thought that's better than yours.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because how else you going to get them to shut up?
Or different.
Yeah, different. Yo, how am I going to get them to shut up? I can't debate them. I can't give them an ideological thought that might differ from his, that might be comparable or understandable. So what can I do to him? I'll choke.
We have a guest that's calling in. Let's 94.3.
Pick up.
Super Saturday moving target, the only move.
94.3.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Let's see. Hello, caller. No, that's not getting.
Super Saturday moving target, the only move.
Hello, caller. Here we go. Hello. How are you? Thank you for calling in. Who am I speaking with?
My name is Susan. I live in Cleveland.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I wanted to say some things I didn't want to quarrel in at the beginning of this discussion. But when you talk about the First Amendment, you have state and local laws that you just discussed. So when you talk about defamation of character, threatening, and things like that, that needs to be discussed along with that. You know, what you use different terms for different people.
Okay.
And I really appreciate the way the moderator took us through the different issues. That was really interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And Susan, as far as on a state level, have you seen or experienced anything that you felt as though our freedom of speech has been violated on the state level?
On the state level, what happens is people who are writing the news and reporting the news will speak as their personal experience.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate your input. This is Jay Kemp. I am, yes.
You're listening to Moving Target. Thank you.
All right. So what do you think about that as far as on the state level? I mean, because I honestly did not separate the two as far as state and federal, you know, when it comes to freedom of speech. I just looked at freedom of speech, First Amendment.
From what I could hear, I couldn't hear it totally. You know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
from what I could hear on some of the things, I know she spoke on defamation of character
Yes.
and hate. What was that? Threatening?
Yeah, but
believe-
and talking about the difference, you know, to make sure that we bring up the state level and the
Because the Constitution is the federal law of the land. I rarely ever look into state law dealing with freedom of speech,
right.
because the freedom of speech is really given through the Constitution.
Excuse me 1 second. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
No, I'm just saying freedom is I'm not very well versed in state law dealing with freedom of speech, but I am familiar with certain state cases, such as I believe we spoke earlier about the case. I believe it was Canton versus Connecticut, Cantwell versus Connecticut, which was a group of Jehovah's Witnesses were out. They were out in the community in New Haven, and they would carry with them a radio, and the radio would have people speaking, and they would be, what we were just saying, disparaging words against other religions and things of that nature. And they were sued because they were basically saying that they were not allowed to be able to do that because it was a certain type of defamation. And it went all the way to Supreme Court. They won their case because the Supreme Court states that you can't blaspheme a religion here. You have a right to speak as you want to. You cannot enact violence against someone.
I wanna answer another call that we got coming in here. Give me 1 second. 94.3. Hello. Caller, you on the air? I don't believe so. Okay. So they were so on a state level, you can't blast or you can't criticize a religion. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's what they were being sued, saying that you can't do that. But it went, after it went through its process, the laws. I can read it out to you. But basically, Cantwell versus Connecticut, it just allowed people, and especially religious organizations, to be able to speak freely. I can say Islam is a garbage religion.
Right.
I can say Christianity is a garbage religion. I can say Buddhism ain't worth nothing. Right? You can say those things and have no recourse, and because you have that freedom of your speech.
So I think, what I want to do, and I don't like to, again, this is a very big conversation. We're not done. We have to continue to have this, and we have to know that the future of our First Amendment right is, I'm not going to necessarily say that it's being taken away, but we got to see how it's actually being altered and changed, especially with technology, right? So when it comes to what we can do to begin to have these talks, have these discussions, to begin to notice where PC culture and identity politics is playing a role, what do you think we can begin to do? And especially, Spencer, on the college campuses.
Well, personally, me, I think we just need to communicate with each other more, get informed with groups that you're just not familiar with, and just eliminate just the words or just the actions that don't really align with someone's.
Go ahead, bro.
Well, yeah, like I was saying, converse with other groups that you aren't familiar with. Like I said before, I was very unfamiliar about the LGBT culture and what offends them and the struggles that they go through. I feel like if we talk to each other more, we can come to a better understanding. We won't be even have to walk on eggshells. We'll know what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate to say, and what's not. So I think it's just a matter of communicating with others.
And it has to be both sides that want
Yes.
to talk, though.
It's not a one-sided
And want to
conversation.
converse and challenge and be okay with disagreement.
Yeah.
You know, and not have to create something that feels like, you know, feels like it's in conflict. Brother Bourne, what do you think? Are you open? Because I know you're very strong in your views. Are you open to have discussions with people that might not
I
identify?
always do that.
Right.
That's why I'm an advocate for free speech. You know what I'm saying? Because if I talk to you, I want you to freely be able to say what you want to say without any thought of me being offended. That I'm going, oh, but don't say that to me. You hurt my feelings. No, if you feel like hurting my feelings, then say what you got to say, because only open dialogue even get you somewhere. If you dealing with somebody and they hiding a part of what they feel about you, then we never going to get to no real conflict resolution.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's a lot of the problem that we have, is that we afraid to deal with things that's going to be outside of what we comfortable with. So I don't mind being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? But I want you to not mind getting made uncomfortable either.
Right.
I will also say that people will have to understand, like, just because someone doesn't necessarily agree with what you have to say doesn't mean they're against you.
Right.
You have to
Yep.
hear people on here.
But I think we also need to make sure that we are mindful of how we're saying things to people. It's not always about what we say. A lot of
true.
times it's about how we're saying these
Absolutely.
things that becomes very offensive or becomes a real attack
Right.
on someone.
Right.
But that's the oversensitive though.
No,
How I
listen.
say it, how I say it is how I say it. I might come from a culture that speak that. This is like one of the things, like when you go into a Chinese restaurant. A lot of times when you hear them speaking to each other, Asians speak real hard at each other, and so sometimes when they speak at you, sometimes it feel offensive because you're like, yo, man, why are you talking to me like that?
But again, that comes down to understanding that that's their culture, and that still comes down to understanding if that's how you're talking. If it's not how you normally talk, and it is something that's coming from a place of aggression to make the other person uncomfortable, I could see how that's going to be met with resistance, you know? And so I think the best way is to approach these conversations and these conflict of ideologies with more of an open mind to understand, look, I'm not trying to hurt you, and I'm not trying to take you down, but I am going to express my opinion, and I think we could be more effective that way. All right, brothers, I want to thank you for joining me on this. I know we're not done with this discussion. Trust me, we got a lot more. Thank you for calling. For people who called in and tuned in, make sure you tune in to the Electric Drum with Brother Youssef, Moving Target Radio.
Love.
Woo!